We have printed out the reports and everything in the packet that you picked up. We're not going to insult you by reading them all, so we expect you to read them. Look over the minutes from the previous meeting quickly, please. I would like to start with a time of silent prayer, and I'd like for you to pray for Bob Hycade's family and also pray for unity in this group as we go through the items of business. Let's do that for the next few minutes. Father, we ask that you be with us today. Help us as we think about the things that come up in this business meeting. Help us to be guided by your Spirit in the decisions we make. We appreciate your presence with us today. As I said, we're not going to insult you by reading everything in this packet, but my job being up here is to, and the only reason I'm up here, by the way, is Christine asked me to do this. We're going to approve the minutes or discuss the minutes of the previous meeting. My job is to get the sense of the meeting. And being an old school teacher, I have ways I like to do that. If you approve of something that I ask you to approve, put up a hand with your fingers extended. If you disapprove, put up a fist. If you want some more discussion or you have a question, give me this business. So, you've looked over the minutes from the previous meeting. Are you ready to approve them? If so, put up the hand like I said. I see no disapproval or no questions, so the minutes of the previous meeting are approved. We have some housekeeping to do. Glenn Post has been named pro temp clerk of the nominating committee. Do we approve of that? And we have new members, Glenn and Mary Post. I don't have a paper form here, but do you approve of accepting Glenn and Mary Post into membership of Sherwood Community Friends Church? Also John and Cindy Johnson, who are not here today, but you know who they are. He plays the piano and she sings really well. So do you approve of accepting them as members? Now we have a more sticky item. Our worship director, Rob Whitaker, they're asking that we assign the church Visa debit card to him to use. That's a little risky, I know. He's a school teacher, and we school teachers have no money, so giving them free rein is pretty tough. But do you approve of assigning Rob a church Visa debit card to make purchases? You actually trust him that much, huh? Okay. We have committee reports. They are in your packet. And again, does anyone want to speak to the missions and outreach report? Does anyone here want to make comments about that? If you do, you'll have to use my mic or come up to this one. If No one has any comments. Do you wish to approve the missions not reach report? You people do this very well. Spiritual life. Wendy, do you have anything to say about that? Okay. There are comments about the spiritual life report in your packet. Do you wish to approve that report? Dave and Marcia, you have anything to say about Christian Ed?
I think it's pretty clear.
You say the report is pretty clear, so do you approve the Christian Ed report? Light's not good in here. I can hardly see some of you people.
There's a question mark about camp. And I'm on the board. Do you want to give just a real brief update on what's going on with camp?
Sure. You have 3 minutes.
So I'm on the board. We're having a meeting tomorrow night to decide on how to do camping this summer, and we've got it down to 2 options. One option is basically do exactly what we did last summer, which was really heavy in the day camp realm, and it was really successful. They had some guest groups come in, but mainly it was day camps. Because the state still is changing things on a regular basis, the camp doesn't feel like they can have a definitive, this is what we're doing for the summer. So tomorrow night, the board is going to discuss that first option, which is do exactly what we did last summer, which is basically all social distance, no overnight camping. And then the second option is coming up with some overnight camping solutions, and they've got some great ideas, and we're going to talk about that. The challenge on both of them is that we're not going to make money. We're going to lose money. And so we're having to rely on PPE loan, forgivable loans, and we're having to rely on donations. So I would say, please pray for the camp. And I don't know much about Tillicum, but I'm sure they're under the same kind of constraints. So that's that. They're basically, long and short, we don't have a lot of definitive information for camps yet.
And I, for one, miss them. Craig, do you have comments about the Elders Committee? Okay. You have comments in your packet about the elders. Are you ready to approve the elders' report? I see some approval. Okay. Rob, you're up. We're on staff reports now.
Well, if you have recognized my reports in the past, the font was bigger and there was less on the page. It has been a busy 6 months. This year, since, well, June, basically, we have redone the stage, we've got new carpet in, we redid our sound system. We have made a lot of changes with cameras, being able to live stream. A lot of this is taking extra time, extra training by our sound guys. One of the things I mentioned in my report was that Dwayne and I and Ryan are meeting once a month to do some training and go over basically what we're doing, how we can make things better. And we met a couple weeks ago, and all of us felt very good about it and felt like it was worthwhile. And it was just kind of fun hanging out together, because Thursdays are usually kind of nitty gritty, get it done, get her done, as the old familiar term is. So we redid our software for what we use for presentations. Next weekend, our new projectors will be in. Today, you couldn't notice that there was a lovely lavender, purplish. I'm not great with colors, but that genre of color for a background, and you couldn't see it at all unless you looked on the screen in the back. Our screens, our projection will be much better after next week. It'll also allow for our live stream to be a full window, because we have to run our software based on our projectors. And so then it feeds into the live stream, and it's smaller, and it's not the dimensions that are best for our live stream. So it's going to help with that as well. If you've read the rest of my report and have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Do you wish to approve this report? Good. This is a lot easier than a class of 30 kids doing this for me. Bob? One moment. I would like to say this. Lisa Guerin worked with me in the narthex a couple Sundays ago. I asked her how many pastors they had at their last church. She says something like 40. Aren't you glad we don't have to go through that many reports today?
So those of you who are on live stream, you should have a link to download what I just scanned to you guys, and it was on my phone, so I apologize if the quality is low, but I did it real fast. So hopefully you have something that you can go off of. Let me know in the chat. Let me know if it's good or bad, and I can take some more pictures. Can you guys hear me okay? Is the mic on? Hello, hello, hello? You might want to take it out of the stand and hold it. Take this off here. There you go. Now you can hear me. Kind of as Rob was saying, he's working on the tech stuff, and I've been doing it on the other side. So he's putting the production gear together, and I've been working on the video editing, graphic design, and the website. I'm working with Pastor Rich on creating the vision and the purpose for the church, uniquely based on the Great Commission sent to us by Christ. And so all the back-end things is really what I've been working on to draw some congruency with what we're doing here in the church and then globally in missions and outreach and what we're commissioned to do, and helping that to reflect on social media, on our website, and really tie that together as a ministry rather than just a disconnect. That's over here and our church is over here. So we're really trying to tie that together. We have, as you can see from my report, we have migrated a lot of the office solutions over different platforms. If you have questions on that, let me know. If you want to know why, let me know. And then I've also been working with the Christian Ed Committee to get our Friends Kids launched. We did that a couple weeks ago successfully and had a classroom full of kids. And then this Wednesday, we are launching the youth group. Friends Youth will start on Wednesday evening in the youth room downstairs. And across the board, I've been setting up partnerships with George Fox to try to get internships and help with student ministry leadership. So that's slow going, but it's something that I'm putting together and trying to arrange with them. I'm also going to be leading a small group there starting in the spring, so hopefully that will also lead to something too. And upcoming, we're really just, again, trying to create all the digital and media as a ministry rather than something that is an extension of our church. We want it to be part of our church and to be integrated within our church, overflowing out of our church of what we're doing in the building. Any questions? Lisa, can you look on the chat to see if anyone has questions on there or comments? Or maybe they're throwing tomatoes?
No questions.
Okay. You guys good? Thanks.
Fox emblem. When I was coaching baseball here at Sherwood, I coached the best athlete I ever coached in my life. He was pitching for me. By the way, he signed with the Yankees right out of high school. But he was pitching for me in the 8th grade, and I had a kid come out from George Fox to umpire the game. He came out with no gear at all. I said, I want you behind the plate. I don't want you behind the pitcher. He said, well, they're 8th graders, aren't they? And I said, yeah, they're 8th graders. He said, well, I'll be fine. So he was sitting on the bleachers, and I had the catcher warming Joe up, sitting close to him. When Joe got his arm a little bit loose, when the ball hit the catcher's mitt, it sounded like a 22 going off. Pretty quick, I felt this peck on my shoulder. He says, Coach, you have any more catching gear in the locker room? I would not stand back there and let Joe Podbean throw at me. But if you want to hear more about Joe sometime, I have lots of stories about Joe. Rich, you're up.
So for those of you who are online, I apologize for, we tried to scan this to you, but we're having problems with all the changes that we've had with our email and stuff. We can't scan to ourselves from this. Anyway, so what I'll do is I'll make this report available as part of my blog that'll be online this week. So I'm not going to read it. Those of you who are here in the house, you can read it. But I do want to just highlight this Psalm 42. As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you. O God, my soul thirsts for you, the living God. You guys know me well enough that I'm a fairly emotional person. I'm not the kind of guy that cries at the drop of a hat. I wish I could, actually. Maybe but I get impacted. I feel things deeply. And one thing I've felt is this year I've felt very deeply by not being able to connect. And for me, that has been the disruption. The disruption of being able to not just drop in on somebody at their approval and just hang out with them. Hang out with you and just talk. And so my soul has been tossed to and fro. I've been in turmoil many, many times because I feel disconnected. There's no guarantees that 2021 is going to be any better than 2020. And I've got to figure it out. And I know what the answer is. The answer is finding solace and peace and rest and comfort in God and in His Spirit, and entrusting all of you into His care. And so I want to invite you to do that. It doesn't look like anytime soon that we're going to be able to say everything's back to normal. We're probably going to be wearing masks for another year, maybe even longer. Might not be a bad idea. How many of us have got the flu or the cold this year? I haven't. Maybe it's not a bad idea that we don't wear masks. But all the other things that we're used to doing, potlucks, fellowship, hugging, shaking hands, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Even once the vaccine drops and everybody's got the vaccine that wants to have the vaccine, it's going to take a while before they have what's called herd immunity. And so it's going to be a while. And so the challenge for us, the challenge for me, people like me who connecting with people is so important, part of my life as a follower of Christ, we've got to put our faith in the knowledge and the truth that Christ is with us and Christ is with each one of us. And not allow ourselves to be fearful and troubled by the world that we live in right now. There is hope, there is victory in the midst of COVID pandemic. And I would love for us as a church to live that way. I want to live that way for myself, and it's a challenge for me. Like I said, I'm an emotional guy. But I want to invite you, let's together live life to the fullest because we do not fear. Because we have confidence in our Father in heaven. Because we have assurance that no matter what happens in this world, no matter what happens, we have God. We have Jesus. And someday we're going to be able to, maybe it's a year or two from now, someday we'll be able to have a fellowship and sit down at the dinner table together. But anyway, you can read my report. I'll put that up online, but that's kind of what I wanted to say. Fear not. Any questions? I didn't highlight a lot of things that have happened as much as I talked broadly, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay.
Approve or disapprove? Rob, I was a little skeptical about giving you free rein with the debit card. I feel, yeah, but I'm even more skeptical to let a preacher get a mic, because you usually don't get it back for 30 minutes. Glenn, the big item that we're here for is the budget. I looked it over a while ago. It's an extensive one. So
okay, you saw everybody get up here with a little sheaf of paper. We're going to talk about budget. Well, that's what we use to prepare it. I do have a PowerPoint. Basically, what I'm going to do with this PowerPoint is review 2020, then highlight the 2021 budget, and then we'll take questions. So if you, next slide. This is the 2020 financial review. We budgeted $180,000 in giving. We received, much like the faith promise, $194,241. So we were $14,000 over budget. Parsonage rent and charter school utilities are the other two major line items in our income. Charter school rent is covered by the contract, or parsonage rent, not charter school. It's kind of a pass-through. We pay the pastor a housing allowance and he pays us rent. It's for tax purposes. The charter school utilities in the contract gives us a percentage of our increased cost in utilities for having the building occupied by the charter school. They use electricity, they use water, they use all that, so they pay us a surcharge monthly for the increase in utilities. Also, there was an additional amount of $92,460 in charter school rent that came in. We do not count that as income, and I'll explain that later. Next slide. This is a reminder to the congregation. Last year in the annual meeting, we approved hiring an associate pastor, a family life pastor, because of the way we budget things and because wasn't necessarily going to be enough money to pay him. We agreed as a congregation to pay him out of the money we take from the charter school. The plan was all of his salary last year, 2/3 of his salary this year, 1/3 of his salary next year, and then we're out of the paying him out of the charter school account. But there was a 3-year plan to get the associate pastor in here so that he could work on building the congregation so he can pay for himself. And we're pretty much on track. Next slide. This one shows you that we have 3 accounts, 3 general committees that were under budget. Christian education was under budget, quite frankly. Well, let's go to the next slide. Quite frankly, Christian education is under budget because when Sunday school can't meet, you don't spend Christian education money. Thank you, COVID-19 again. The elders' budget was overspent, Craig, by 200 and some odd %. But you have to understand that their budget was $800, so a 200% overspend is not a whole lot of money. And it was all spent on searching for our family life pastor. It was the pastoral search that cost the money in their budget. Blessedly, I can tell you that I am a new clerk for this committee. It's not my fault. I don't understand why we budgeted salary for a pastor, but not search money to look for him. Hopefully that won't happen again. We are underspent in employee expense because we budgeted our assistant pastor full-time, full year. Didn't get him hired until mid-year, so we saved half a year of his salary. Missions and outreach is overspent, and that one is 100% due to the pandemic. We have a budget line item in our budget that's, I think, $300 for benevolence. When someone comes to the church and says, I really need $40, I can't survive. We have a fund for that. That fund this year exploded and accounted for 537% of the budgeted amount. We spent almost $1,800 in benevolence where we budgeted $300. A good expense, but it is a big percentage overspend. Spiritual Life Committee, 464%. Rob, you want to stand up? Rob, in worship team, is a subcommittee of spiritual life. We spent over $24,000 last year that was not budgeted. And you can see it in the cameras back here. You can hear it. We no longer have analog sound, we now have digital sound. It was things we had to do to get the online presence and to get a suitable product for the people who can't come here because of COVID. The elders agreed, we spent it. There is money for new equipment in the budget for next year. However, they can't spend it without money, because they spent $21,000. So the $2,400 that's in there, I said, we'll leave there, but you can't spend it without the steward's approval. Just because we spent so darn much this year on it. Stewardship, again, 149% in my budget. And if everybody look down, there it is. $22,000 worth of carpet. The carpet was getting threadbare. It was probably a year or two away to having to be replaced. We jumped up and said, there's no one in the building to smell the glue. There's no interruption to the services of the school. There's no interruption to our services. Let's do it during COVID. So we did it this year. It was a little over $22,000. Family Life Program, because of COVID, couldn't meet, couldn't do things, didn't get started for half a year, so they're quite underspent. Next slide. These are just worship team, worship arts budget comment, the comment about the trustees' budget being overspent because of the carpeting. But the third comment I really want to hit heavy on, Tim Brandt in particular, but the trustees, I think, did an absolutely remarkable job this year. Nobody just said, oh, we can't meet, things are okay. Because we can't meet, we don't create garbage, so they adjusted the garbage pickup. Because we can't meet, we didn't use as much in some of the other utilities. They adjusted that. They cut out garbage pickup on half of the cans. They cut out stuff that we weren't using that I think could very easily have just gone on with, oh well, we pay a monthly and we put a garbage can out, so it's okay. So I think they did a remarkable job in saving us money, and we need to thank them for that. Next. I've got about 4 slides here. You've got a complete listing in the back of that packet about every line item in the budget. If you want to talk about them, we can. This is a summary. Next. Very, very interesting year to do budgeting. How much longer are we going to have expenses because of COVID-19. And yes, we were overspent last year on janitorial because when we finally got back in the building, we had to have somebody here on Sunday who isn't normally here on Sunday to clean, to disinfect. There were a lot of expenses involving the hand sanitizer and the masks and that sort of thing. How much longer will that go on? How much longer will it be until we can get back to our regular program? Can we budget 1/3 of the normal youth money? Because for 2/3 of the year, the youth won't be able to meet, so we don't need, it didn't make sense to me, so we budgeted a normal year. If we underspend it, we underspend it. But we budgeted for the full year, full program of this church so that it's not going to be a problem. My big deal with the new budget, oh, that's the last item there. We went through and we made some changes in the format and we changed a lot of things that have been done historically. Budgets in this church used to be done with a photocopy machine, very much like the government. Gee, we had $1,000 last year, we'll budget $1,000 this year. We may have spent $200 or $2,000, but it was in for $1,000, so it's in for $1,000 this year. We didn't do that. We looked at the historical spending in each account and determined how much money needed to be in that account so we could move things around to where they were actually being spent so that we have an actual record going forward and some ability to plan. Next slide. This year, we have budgeted a $20,000 increase in giving. We budgeted $200,000 instead of $180,000. The parsonage rental and the charter school utilities remain unchanged. The charter school will pay us $92,538 this year in rent. But when you think about this 9.7% increase in giving, we were 7.1% over last year, so it's really less than a 3% increase we're budgeting. We're just getting honest with it. We're trying to get as close as we can to what is actually going to be coming in. Next. We have two committees who are under budgeted next year or have a reduction in their budget, Christian Education and the Elders. This is primarily because we took items from both of those budgets and moved them into the family life budget. Example, Samuel School for the youth. It should be in what used to be the youth budget is now the family life budget, not the elders budget, but historically it was in the elders budget. Well, we moved it this year. So the family life budget is up 56% because it was a small budget and we added $1,000. So, but the two red numbers offset by the family life number. It's just things we moved around in the budget. It's not that we actually reduced what we're going to spend on Christian education. We just moved it to a more appropriate category. The elders moved Samuel School. Employee expense goes up 1.8%. We gave minimal cost of living raises in the salary to our paid employees. Salary is always a strange thing because the total of salary expense or employee expense went up 1.8%. That does not mean the employees got a 1.8% raise. Because when you start talking about total cost of employees, you have to match their 7.85% FICA contribution on their taxes. There are additional taxes we pay simply by increasing their salary. So this is a total cost increase in the total expense of the employee's cost, not just in their salary. Missions and outreach went up. Why did missions and outreach go up? Because there are two places in this budget, in the stewardship budget and in the missions budget, where we have monies that we give to either international missions or to the Northwest Yearly meeting to support church plants and home missions. These items are in our budget as a percentage of income. So when we increased $20,000 in projected income, we have to increase these line items as well, because we will be paying more to the missions that we contribute a percentage of our income to. It's just a fact of life. The interesting thing here is that employee expense and stewardship and trustees account for 85% of our budget. So the employees and the garbage, heat, light, power, utilities, maintenance of the building, 85% of what we spend. Next. This is basically what I just talked about. Christian Ed went down 8.2%, but that's $800. That's not a lot of money. When you talk about family life going up 56%, that's $1,000. So percentages are odd to look at, because if they didn't have much of a budget and you move something worth $1,000 in there, it looks like they have a heck of an increase, and they don't. Next. This is the overall budget. Our total income, $225,800. Our total expenses are budgeted at $302,624. It's a 9.7% increase in income, a 1.44% increase in expenses. I need to remind everyone that we have, for the last 4 years, to my knowledge, adopted a deficit budget. But we have $92,000 coming in from the school, and that's where we pay the deficit in the budget. Our deficit last year was budgeted at $95,527. This budget reduces that deficit to $76,000. So we've cut roughly $19,000 out of the out of the deficit, which puts us pretty much on that path of full price, 2/3, 1/3 for the family life pastor. This is a very abbreviated verbal discussion of the budget. You have basically line item issues. The line item in the back of your packet has last year's budget, last year's actuals, and next year's budget in it. So if you have questions, I do have complete copies of the budget with me, obviously. If anyone here wants to discuss it, go over it line item by line item, I'm more than willing to do that. Or if the group as a whole wants to go over it line item by line item, the next 16 slides in the presentation do that. It's up to you what you want, so we'll take questions.
Want to approve the budget? Good.
We adopted it?
Yes.
Oh, we should try to be fair, we should wait for the people online too, so I didn't ask them if they approved it.
We have to wait for input from them?
Let them know, we're waiting.
Okay.
We are currently.
Slides available. Don Power says this might be the best budget report I have heard since coming to Sherwood Community Friends Church. Thank you.
Good.
And the slides are available to get them for them.
There's a thumb drive back there with slides, all the slides on it.
In fact, just as a statement, Vertica, you mentioned to everybody that's watching that all this information will be available upon request. If people send us an email, we'll send it out to them tomorrow morning. We don't want to put it on the website because the website is open to the whole
Okay.
Okay, so that everybody online can hear that all of the information in today's meeting will be online, or will be available, will not be online, but will be available if you contact the church office. We will distribute it to you. We did not choose to put it on the website because the website is open for public perusal, and we want the members and regular attenders to have this information, but not necessarily put it out for everybody in the public to read.
So we got approval online.
Good. Thank you, Glenn.
I'm just going to stay here because the next one is public comment, right?
Yes.
I have a public comment. As the interim chair of the nominating committee, I want to encourage everyone, both here and online, that if you have a particular interest in anything we do at Sherwood Community Friends Church, contact either me or the office, and we will make sure you get nominated to that committee. I'm a firm believer in committees functioning much better with people who can have an interest in that particular item than with people I go out and select and say, wouldn't you please do this? So if you do have an interest in being on the stewardship committee, on the trustees, on the elders, by all means let us know, because we are about to start putting names on paper and we need to know where your interests lie to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience and your willingness to participate in the items we had for business today. May we close with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for your presence with us today. Thank you for this church. Pray that you will bless the ministry that we have here. Be with our staff. Help them to have your leading in the things that they do. Bless us as we go our way. We ask for Jesus' sake. Amen. Priscilla, thank you for acting as recording clerk. How do you know where you are? Okay. Thank you. I need some help getting off this platform. This ramp is blocked. I can't get to that one.
Let me unlock it and then we'll help you down.
Okay, I can get down if you just unblock.
What's that?